In a world painted with the hues of Andalusian sunsets, our story begins with a young shepherd named Santiago. He wanders the Spanish countryside, his only companions a flock of sheep and the books he trades for thicker ones once he has read them. His parents had wished for him to be a priest, to bring pride to their simple farm family. But Santiago, since he was a small boy, had been possessed by a desire to see the world. This yearning was more powerful than any divine calling he could imagine. So he chose a shepherd's life, a life that allowed him to roam, to know new places, and to meet new people. For 2 years, he had traveled through the fields of Andalusia, his flock a woolly, ever-moving river. He knew every village, every castle, and the rhythm of the seasons. His sheep, he mused, were simple creatures. They only cared for food and water. As long as he led them to green pastures, they would be content, following him without question. They had forgotten how to rely on their own instincts, trusting him completely. Santiago sometimes wondered if it was the same for him. He had grown so accustomed to his route that perhaps he, too, had forgotten how to make his own way. He was on his way to a small town where he had been the year before. There, he had met a merchant's daughter, a girl with raven hair and eyes that reminded him of the Moorish conquerors. He had spent hours talking to her, describing the world he saw, the villages he visited. The thought of seeing her again filled him with a pleasant anticipation. It was a novel feeling, this connection to one place, one person. Perhaps, he thought, it was time to settle down. He could sell his flock, marry the girl, and become a part of the town. Before reaching his destination, he stopped at an abandoned church, its roof long gone, a giant sycamore tree growing where the sacristy once stood. This was his favorite place to rest. That night, under the stars, visible through the collapsed roof, he had a recurring dream. It was the same dream he'd had the week before. In the dream, a child appeared and played with his sheep. Suddenly, the child took Santiago by both hands and transported him to the Egyptian pyramids. There, the child told him, "If you come here, you will find a hidden treasure." But just as the child was about to show him the exact location, he would always wake up. The dream was vivid and unsettling. He had dismissed it the first time, but its repetition made him uneasy. He remembered an old woman in the next town, a gypsy who interpreted dreams. Though shepherds were wary of gypsies, Santiago's curiosity and a flicker of hope drove him to her door. He explained the dream, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. The old woman listened intently, her eyes sharp. After a long silence, she made a strange pact with him. She wouldn't charge him for the interpretation, but if he found the treasure, he must give her 1/10 of it. Santiago, amused and a little skeptical, agreed. The old woman then said, "Your dream is in the language of the world. You must go to the pyramids in Egypt. There you will find a treasure that will make you a rich man." It was so simple, so direct, that Santiago felt foolish. He had come all this way for something a child could have told him. Disappointed, he left, resolving to forget the silly dream and the old woman. He decided to stick to his reality, his sheep, the merchant's daughter, and the familiar fields of Andalusia. He sat on a bench in the town square, trying to read a new book he had bought. The sun was warm, and the plaza was bustling with life. As he lost himself in his reading, an old man sat down beside him and struck up a conversation. He was dressed in a strange, almost Arab-like fashion, but he had the air of a European. The old man asked about the book Santiago was reading, pointing out its greatest flaw. It described people's inability to choose their own destinies. What the book called the world's greatest lie. Intrigued, Santiago asked what this lie was. The old man replied, It's this, that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. The old man introduced himself as Melchizedek, the king of Salem. Santiago had never heard of such a place, but there was an undeniable wisdom and power in the old man's eyes. Melchizedek knew things about Santiago he had never told anyone: his parents' wishes, his calling to be a shepherd, even the name of the merchant's daughter. The king explained that he appeared to people when they were on the verge of giving up on their personal legend, the thing they had always wanted to accomplish. He told Santiago that everyone, when they are young, knows what their personal legend is. But as time passes, a mysterious force convinces them it's impossible to realize. Melchizedek's words resonated deep within Santiago, stirring the embers of his childhood dream to travel. The old king spoke of the soul of the world, which is nourished by people's happiness, and of omens that guide those who follow their path. To prove his identity, the king wrote the names of Santiago's parents in the sand with a stick. Then he opened his cloak, revealing a breastplate of solid gold covered with precious stones. Santiago was stunned into belief. Melchizedek told him, "If you want to find the treasure, you will have to give me 1/10 of your flock." This was a steep price. The dream interpreter had asked for 1/10 of the treasure he hadn't yet found, but the king was asking for a portion of what he already possessed. Santiago was torn. His flock was his livelihood, his security. Giving up a part of it felt like giving up a part of himself. He wrestled with his decision, weighing the comfort of his known life against the pull of a mysterious, unpromised treasure. He thought of the merchant's daughter. She didn't depend on him. Her world was contained within her town. His sheep, on the other hand, depended on him completely, but they were just sheep. They couldn't appreciate the new pastures he found for them. The next day at noon, Santiago met the king again. He had made his decision. He brought with him 6 sheep, 1/10 of his flock. He had already sold the rest to his friend, receiving a good price. He now had a pouch full of money and a heart full of uncertainty and excitement. He was ready to go to Africa, to Egypt, to the pyramids. He was ready to follow his personal legend. Melchizedek accepted the sheep and, in return, gave Santiago 2 stones, one black and one white. They are called Urim and Thummim, he explained. The black signifies yes, and the white no. When you are unable to read the omens, they will help you to do so. But, if you can, try to make your own decisions. The king's final advice was simple. Do not forget that everything you deal with is only one thing and nothing else. And don't forget the language of omens. And, above all, don't forget to follow your personal legend through to its conclusion. With the king's blessing and the stones in his pocket, Santiago stood at the port of Tarifa. He watched a strong wind, the Levanta, blow in from the east, from Africa. It was the same wind that had brought the Moors. He felt a surge of freedom and adventure. He was no longer just a shepherd. He was an adventurer, a seeker of treasure. His journey had truly begun. He had left his flock, his past, and the familiar hills of Andalusia behind. Ahead of him lay the mystery of the desert, the promise of a treasure, and the unfolding of his own unique destiny. Thank you for joining us on this first step of Santiago's journey. If you were captivated by this story and want to know what happens next, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll continue to explore the world's most inspiring stories. See you next time.